With every start, we are born again. Open your heart, spend less time in your head.
Hi everyone, this is Dr. Anthony James. It's Sunday, October 25th, and I'm going to introduce the last in this series on reality of the body. This will be lesson number 3. Why is Thai yoga as good for the giver as for the receiver? And I think you're going to find this lesson particularly interesting. It's not quite what you think. It may be what you think, but it may not be quite what you think, and this may enlighten you, or it may at the very least blow your mind. But before I get into lesson number 3, friends, I just wanted to take a minute to remind you that here at the SomaVeda College of Natural Medicine and Thai Yoga Center on the NAIC Sanctuary in Brooksville, Florida, we have incredible professional development programs which are suitable for people who have no experience in the healing arts, health, or medicine of any kind. We have entry-level programs, both live and online. And we also have exceptional programs for people who are in the healthcare business, physicians, nurses, PAs, DOs, chiropractors, acupuncture doctors, or anyone in any other branch of health or healing, massage therapists, etc., who don't like it anymore, and who want to transition into something that's ethical, something that's moral, something that has no iatrogenic mortality as part of its regular practice. And also certain healing professions, especially the allied healing professions, right now are being shut down under mandatory lockdowns and quarantines and restrictions and so on and so forth. And yet, as practitioners in our umbrella, as members of our tribal organization, we're not under any of those mandates or lockdowns. And so if you need to work and need an alternative way to practice healing and keep legally practicing, I can help you with that. Okay, so if you want to move to the good side, move out of the dark into the light, and create a path toward healing for yourself, your family, send me an email at nativeaic@somaveda.com or call for a personal counseling session on the options that are available to you. The other thing is that on our websites at somaveda.org and thaiyogacenter.com, we have really interesting and useful articles to help you, to empower you, to help you sort out the treacherous landscape of how to keep practicing and being helpful, being functional and helpful in your healing practice during the most pressing health crisis that everyone is currently having to endure. Okay? We're also happy to help you find practitioners near you. Take care. See you in the next video. Won't be in this series, but the next video. And my email again is nativeaic@somaveda.com. That's one word, somaveda.com, just like the website, to get a hold of me for more information on our exciting programs. God bless. See you next time. Be well, be happy, and don't be afraid to touch many. First time ever. I mean, I'm with you. And my innate in that moment has nothing else to do. And in that moment, my innate, my inner mind, my higher intellect, my higher heart, my spiritual centers have nothing better to do than to do that dance with you right now. And so we go for it, and then and it takes time. And progressively, you're going to have to trust me more. Progressively, I need to know you better. Because eventually, what's going to start to happen in this sequence of sessions is I'm going to start to do things with you, explore things with you that I've never done with another person in my whole life. I'm going to start to create artifacts of therapy. I'm going to start to create vectors of pressure and therapy. I'm going to start to create interactions of emotional and somatic physical expression in relation to repressed, old, unresolved negative emotion and the postural signatures that they give to me that I have never explored in that way with another person in my whole life, nor have you ever received or had as an interaction from another person in your whole life. And in that moment, we will have a unique exchange, and the result of that unique exchange is going to be healing for both of us. And that's why we say it's as good for me as it is for you. It's not an affectation. It's not a marketing slogan. We're so used to the bullshit that we don't know when the real shit is on the bulletin board. We're so used to seeing the garbage of marketing, and people just say these things to be saying these things. Thank God we have a history, because we can go back and we can look and say, you know what, this was the motto 400 years ago. This was the motto in the 13th century. We didn't make it up. It's not marketing. It's a real thing. And then you're going to have the aftermath of that session number 2 is going to last for days. And there's going to be changes that occur in the body for days after that. And then we're going to come back and we're going to do the supine session, session number 3. And we're going to do another dance. And we're going to have the most male and the most female lines. We're going to get into the most sensitive issues, both physically and emotionally. And believe it or not, the sideline position, because of that, is the can opener for the heart. The sideline position is the can opener for the heart. Why? Because we bring energy, attention, consciousness, breath, and pressure to the most sensitive energy lines and points on the body. Male and female. That is a push and that is a pull. Energetically, push, big pump, pull, tug of war. We get a lot of bang for our buck. A lot of bang for our buck in the sideline position. And guess what? I get to stomp on you and I get to push you like a pro wrestler, and it's not threatening or violent. So the jar of your repression, the jar lid of your repression is stuck. Oh, I give up. Put it back in the cabinet. So I get the jar of your repression in the sideline position, and guess what? I have leverage because I can bring all of my faculties to bear on your most armored line, that's the yang line, and your most defensive line, that's the yin line. Push and pull. That's where I heat the jar and then give it a good twist. Okay? Because the lid comes off easy once you heat it up. And then, now we have the heart. Now, all along in this series of Therapeutic Day, you may have an emotional release, a catharsis, a realization, a breakthrough that is unexpected. And the reason why is these old Nemos, good word to learn. I invented it so you could learn it, or something like that. It stands for Old Unresolved Negative Emotional Issues. I just call them Nemos. I get tired of saying that. Okay? Are keyed to physiology, posture, and Folky Loki. I like that too. It sounds fun to me. Folky Loki. In other words, a focus, a locale of focus and intensity. A Folky, a Loki. In other words, a specific spot, a specific area of the body that is hypertensive, that indicates the storage of a Nemo. And it's always going to be a place on the body. It's going to be a place that you can map. X marks the spot. And the only way I can find these Folky Loki is to touch every spot on the body. And then I say, this one's good, this one, this one's good, this one, And after I've done this enough time with enough bodies, and I put my hand on your body and push, I know what a good one feels like, and I know what a bad one feels like. I know what an area of tissue in the body feels like when it is not hypertensive, sympathetic atonia afflicted. I know what a spot on the body feels like that is open and receptive and not blocked. I know what healthy tissue feels like. I know what healthy muscle feels like. And it doesn't feel like fibromyalgia with fibroids and cysts and scar tissue. It feels very, very different. Feel. I know what a healthy breast feels like. And it doesn't feel myalgic and fibrotic and cystic, and it doesn't feel like that. It has a different feel. And even the healthy organs have a feel. I know how a healthy liver feels. And a healthy liver is not supposed to protrude past the bottom edge of the 11th and 12th rib. And if you put your hands on someone's abdomen and you can feel their liver and it is immediately abutting or adjacent or even slightly protruding past the 11th or 12th rib, there's something really wrong with that person. But most therapists would never be able to tell that because they don't know what a healthy abdomen is supposed to feel like. And if you put your hand on this point, boom, 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 on someone's abdomen, and you feel a ball, stop pushing. Get off it. In fact, have them be very, very careful if they're going to sit up. And maybe it would be better for them not to sit up. You call the paramedics right then. Why? Because that's the appendix. And if the appendix is big enough to feel, it's big enough to blow. And it can blow by bending over to tie your shoes. I actually watched a man burst his appendix once on stage in a bar. I actually watched a guy blow out his appendix. The band was called Nickelback. Have you ever heard of that? We were in Michigan. Okay? We were in Traverse City, Michigan, in a dive bar, and this band called Nickelback was playing, was going to play, right? And everybody was hyped up, and I was like, whoa, what's going on with these people? They're kind of jacked up, a little hyper-emotional, you know? And because my friend had invited me, I'd never heard of the band. Okay? Never heard a single song, didn't have any idea who they were. And so they get on the stage, the crowd goes wild. Hey, everybody, Michigan, Traverse City, Michigan. Yeah. Picks up his guitar, puts the strap over. Boom, hits the first chord on the guitar and then just stops. The other band members play a little bit, but he doesn't play another note. And then he looks up like this, and his eyes roll back in his head, and he fell down. Right on the spot. Unconscious. In shock. Because he burst his appendix. Apparently his appendix was the size of a grapefruit. Size of a grapefruit. And when he banged into it with the guitar, he burst his own appendix. But he could have burst his appendix putting his shoes on that day. He could have burst his appendix getting in or out of his car. Had he gone for a therapy session with someone who would put pressure on his stomach, they could have burst his appendix. But you would have been able to see it across the room without his shirt on, and you would have seen a ring of discolorment, yellow, green, red, swollen, bulbous protuberance halfway between the ASIS and the navel. We go like this, boom, boom, boom. There it is. My finger's on it. Okay? When you put your hands on enough healthy abdomens, you can feel one that's not. Okay? So then we come out of rotation, we go to prone, and we're in Backland. We're in Backland. Okay? And I want to take my time in Backland. A lot of people have back consciousness. A lot of their issues are in their back and are in their posterior, one way or the other. The most important energy lines to just energy vitality of life in the gallbladder, for example, are on the posterior of the body. okay? And we know how important the gallbladder is to the functioning of the liver. Can't have a happy liver. See, it's like happy wife, happy life. Liver, happy gallbladder, happy liver. Unhappy gallbladder, unhappy liver. And the gallbladder lives on the back of the body. And the bladder lives on the back of the body. How about this? I think we did a thing where we looked into this and we found that about 70% of the population has a subclinical UTI for more than 20 years.
What percentage again?
70. About 7 out of 10 people at some point in their life have a UTI. Subclinical, in other words, no symptoms strong enough to go see a doctor. Maybe occasional painful urination or a little sedimentation in the urine, which they don't pay any attention to because maybe they pee when they're sitting and they never look in the toilet to see what's going on in there. What is that? What is that? My Ayurvedic doctor said that you should always look at your poo. You should always look at your pee before you flush it. You should always look at your pee. You should always look at your urine. Why? Because there's always stuff going on. It's an indication of your overall health. And you should be familiar enough with your poo and familiar enough with your urine to know when it's not right. Most people have no consciousness of this whatsoever. Their mama never told them that they need to smell and study their urine. Their mama never told them that occasionally you need to smell your own poo. Because if you did, and you knew what healthy looked like and normal looked like, you'd know when it wasn't. And most people don't. Don't know is what I mean. Okay? It takes time to get to know people. You have to be with them to get to know them. And also, you only trust people you know. And it takes time to get to know someone. I need you to trust me to be able to share with me what is really wrong with you. Because only after you tell me or show me, however you can, because it's not always verbal, right, what is really going on with you, then do you give me the first opportunity to really help you with everything I know. Only after that. And if you don't trust me, you're just not going to share. You're going to submit to partial therapy and call it good enough. Well enough, we say. But you're not going to let me get into your goodies because you don't trust me. Okay? So, and that is also a time equation. It's not just a matter of me trying to convince you to trust me. In fact, it'd be better if I don't. What I do, I don't try to make you trust me. I just spend time with you in a natural way. In a genuine way. I listen to you and I communicate with you from the heart, and I only speak truth while I'm on the mat, outside the mat. Man, I'm going to lie to you. Oh my God, that's how big it was. And I caught it by myself. It literally leaped into my arms while I was standing on the boat. Okay, outside. But on the mat, I have to be truthful with you. Why? Because truth begets truth. Lies begat lies. We go through the prone territory, then we come to that was what? We did general, supine, side, prone session number 4. 5 is golden. Because 5 is abdomen. And 5 is the window to the body's universe. All the energy lines begin and end at the navel. All of the chakras begin and end at the navel. All of the meridians begin and end at the navel. The meridian anatomy all begins at the navel. This is Rome. And all roads lead to Rome. Long live the king. The king is dead. Long live the king. This is the center of the body's universe. Its history of the umbilicus goes back to the moment of conception. This is the only point on the human body that you can physically touch that has a contiguous connection physically, tissue-wise, to the moment of conception. Right here, right now. I'm touching a pathway, an energy path, it's called Chiang Mo, that goes back to the moment I entered this realm of manifestation as a fertilized egg and the formation of the umbilicus and zygote and fetus and finally Anthony and the displacement of the placenta and finally Anthony, and which is separate. See, as long as the placenta is intact, it's not the individual child, it's the reconciling force between mother and father, because the umbilicus is the mother's body. So until the umbilicus is cut, there is no unique individual, which is now the first member of the new triad, which will be able to create an entire universe eventually. That child, that newborn baby, will eventually be able to create an entire new universe. But until that cord is cut, it's still part of the old. And when I touch this, I go back to my moment of creation, to my origin of incorporation, I was going to say incarceration, in the manifest body, in the material body, okay? And so that also means that I now have a continuous connection in physical geometry in space through multiple dimensions of time and space and consciousness, through every iteration of who Anthony has been in life from that first moment of manifestation to right now. And if I could see myself like that, if I could see all of me's, if I could see every me, if I could see all of the happy me's, all of the sad me's, all the disgusting me's, and all of the generous me's, and all of the joyful me's, and all of the tearful me's, if I could see all of those clear enough just for one moment, and then I could discern what is the singularity of the image that all of those images of me create in this reality, maybe in the next moment I might know who I am. Or maybe I might be a little closer to it. And we were taught that this is important. That this is important. The spiral away from the navel is the same as the spiral of creation in your physical reality. In other words, you have the fertilized cell, you have the origins of the umbilicus, and then the zygote unwinds in a spiral around that, following principles of sacred geometry and the golden mean ratio, and then unwinds into this bilateral. Why bilateral? Male and female. Because we are the reconciliation of male and female. That's why we have the two parts. It's why the left side of us is female and why the right side of us is male. Doesn't matter what your gender is. Because that started in the egg. You didn't choose it. Okay? And so we say abdominal leg stretching at session number 5. It's amazingly, possibly powerful. Oh my God, people have breakthroughs when we do deep, focused abdominal work with pranayama. And the inversions, getting the legs up in session number 5, facilitate energy flow into the abdomen. It's all about the khandhasthana or sadhana or sacred belly. Hara. Hara, the hara. Okay? And then the next session after that, we do seated. And seated is the position that prepares us for walking and prepares us for motion and mobility in the world, the seated position. Seated is halfway between laying the heck down and standing the heck up. Okay? So we've done grounding, 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 and then toward the end of the protocol, we got to get the energy up. Why? I got to get you back into connection with your active life. I got to get you up. And that's why most meditative disciplines emphasize the seated position. Because it's an intermediary between heaven and earth, between being grounded and sedentary and actually being able to get up and walk around. And in the Theravada Buddhist tradition of Vipassana, We do the sitting meditation, and then we stand up, and then we walk. And so then the Vipassana is done walking. Walking in the mind, preparing to walk, seeing the walk, projecting the walk. What does it mean to walk? What does walking mean? What does it mean to move one's consciousness forward through space? What does it mean to move in the world? What does it mean to not be able to move in the world? Thinking about walking, raising the knee, lifting the knee, extending the foot, putting the heel down, shifting the weight forward, pause, lifting the foot, bringing the knee forward, extending the foot, putting the foot down, pause, breaking down the most simple thing that you've done since you were 2 years old into 8 distinctive steps, so much so that most people, the first time they do Vipassana, somebody in the room falls down because they don't know how to walk. You walk, you think you know how to walk. Sitting is actually our intermediary between the ground and walking. And you think you know how to sit. You've been sitting your whole life. You think you know how to sit. You don't know how to sit. You're uncomfortable sitting. You're never comfortable sitting because you don't know how. And the various parts of you aren't in agreement how. You got 5 different conversations going on. Your knees think they're in charge. You think sitting's about putting your bottom on the ground, and your knees are going, oh, hell no. It's about my comfort. You're like, okay. You listen to the knees, work with the knees, and you're like, okay, now it's about getting my bottom on the ground, and the knees are part of the program now, so we're all good to go, and the ankles go, oh, hell no. Why do you always listen to the knees? You never listen to me. And actually, I'm more important than the knees. Why? Because I am in charge of your relationship with the freaking earth. So no, you cannot sit without my permission. You're like, oh man. Okay, all I want to do is put my bottom on the ground for a minute without a fist fight. That's it. That's all I want to do. We call it sitting. And so you negotiate a truce. You know, okay, feet, got it. There's even charts made for you. Glorious feet. Glorious points on the feet. Glorious ankles. Forgive us for, not thinking you were in charge, and give us the space so that we can sit and be comfortable for a freaking minute. And as soon as you get in that position, the back goes, oh, hell no, I don't like this at all. Or the shoulder, or the neck, or the head, or my favorite, the small intestine. Just when you got it just right, and you finally got comfortable, and you can finally sit and have this heavenly, sacred orientation of the seated position between heaven and earth, the bell goes, oh, hell no. In fact, we're leaving the room. We're not even going to stay in the room. In fact, we're going to go run. It's time for jogging. We're going to jog. And off you go. Sitting's easy, except that it's really not. And it's actually one of the most difficult lessons of being a monk or a nun, is learning how to sit. And a lot of teachers say that that is actually the art of consciousness as a monk or nun, is learning how to sit. That's what they say. Because in order to sit comfortably for a minute, not in a chair. See, here's the really tricky part. However long you think you've been in the world evolutionary-wise, the use of props and chairs has only occurred in human civilization in the blink of an eye of a whole life. 99% of the history of humans in the world, even as human beings living in cities, like we do today, we did not sit on furniture. We did not sit off the ground. Tables were this high because everybody sat on the ground. Everybody squatted when you're working or sit on your bottom on the ground when you're not. And there was no such thing as a chair. And then about 4,000 years ago, the yoga rishis got tired. Their elbows were always dirty from leaning on the ground. And so I'm glad I wasn't there. They grabbed somebody's cane, like an old man's cane, and they chopped it off so that it was just high enough that when you're sitting you can prop your elbow on it. And that was the first chair. It wasn't really a chair so much as just a prop, a cane that you prop your arm on. Okay? And then eventually they added another prop on the other side and tied them together. And then eventually they raised that up and ta-da, it's a chair. We don't know how to sit. Now, sitting has value because sitting actually puts you in a perfect spinal alignment for moving the energies of heaven and earth through your spinal cord. Sitting does. And so you have to spend time properly sitting to be healthy. When you're sitting upright without support, without a chair to lean on, and your lower back is not collapsed, and you're in a proper position, hips in the proper alignment, spine with a nice S-curve, shoulders back, chin down, head back, so that everything is in alignment from the midmost point of your perineum up to the top of your head, and that your heels are locked in and your knees are out and rotated properly so there's no stress on your knees or your feet. You can take a full breath without restriction in all three parts. And with a little practice, you can actually relax enough that you could sleep. That you could actually sleep comfortably if you know how to sit. So you can be alert, hyper alert, or completely asleep in the same position. But it also aligns all the organs properly in the abdominal section, in the abdominal cavity. So it has a spinal benefit, it has an organic benefit, it has a consciousness benefit. Most all of the saints and sages at some point said that you need to sit down and be quiet. It's one of the skill sets required of arhats and wannabe self-realized conscious beings. At some point, you have to sit and be quiet. So our last session is seated in the 5-session rotation, and then the 7th session is we're going to go back through time and we're going to take the client through all 7 sessions, all 5 positions for real, as if we know them and they trust us. Which means the first time I can do a real session on you is the last one, not the first one. Because it takes 9 to 12 hours, hands-on, to do that protocol. That's why we divide it up into a minimum of 7 sessions. Because it takes 9 to 12 hours to work every line, every point, every asana, every position, as if you mean it. For real. 9 to 12 hours hands-on. And when I get through the last, which is the long general session, all 5 attitudes, 3 times on each line, hold every point, hit every line, palm press when you should, walk on them when you should, fold, spindle, and mutilate when appropriate, cajole, coerce, coordinate, coach, incentivize, organize, deputize, round up, herd the kittens where they need to go. And by the time we get through the 7th session, you are not the same person who introduced yourself to me the first day I met you. You're not. And you may be from somewhat different to you may not be the same person. You may in fact now be exhibiting signs of a wholly new consciousness. One that was latent before, but now is manifest. One that was lost and now is found. It's not hyperbole. It's not imaginary. It's not fictitious. It's not delusional. This is the reality of what we do. This is the reality of the potentiality, possibility expressed in real time of actually practicing this protocol on real people. This is a potential experience with every program, every single time you lay hands on someone. And it's transformative for you too. So it takes time to get to know someone. So the protocol guarantees that I have that time and guarantees that you commit to that time to be with me. It takes time to develop real trust with another human being. At least we spend a whole day together, 9 to 12 hours, and that's why we call it a therapeutic day. 9 to 12 hours, that's one day. And so I'll look at you and I'll say, you've had this problem for 10 years. Are you willing to give me one day to get to a better place? Now, of course, because of programming, the average person thinks a day of therapy is like 40 minutes. No, I'm talking like a sunrise to sunset kind of day. Do you want to experience what I know, who I am, what I have to give you? You need to come and spend a day with me. Start in the morning, start in the sunrise, and hang out with me until the sun sets. And we'll greet the sun and we'll greet the moon. And somewhere in between, you'll know who I am, I'll know more who you are, and we will be better and different at the same time together. And so, but that's just me. That's why I do the Therapeutic Day protocol. Okay? Now it also happens that I might make some money doing that too. We'll talk about that later. This class here today, this lesson, wasn't about how to make money doing this. It was just, I wanted to give you what's in my head when I say Therapeutic Day. And when I keep, for you guys who've been in class before, and I'm going, how many protocols have you done? How many therapeutic, I don't care how many individual sessions. That's like walking through a crowd like a politician, just walking through a crowd, shaking hands with everybody as you walk by, and then coming back and say, I know you people. You're my people. I know you. Because we touched hands in a crowd. No, you don't. Liar. Instinctively, we know that's a lie. You don't know me. You don't know squat. Why? You haven't spent a minute with me. How can you say you know me and you haven't spent a day with me? Not even one day. How many people in your life are not willing to spend one day with you? Really? On your agenda, on your dime. No, really, I just want you to spend a day with me. Can you do that? I'm kind of busy right now. How about a half an hour? How about lunch? How about coffee? How about a movie? How about a, right? If that's the sum of the relationships, well, that's why we're deficient. So this protocol is as much about relationship as it is about anything else. And yes, relationship and building relationships is part of healing. Wake up, smell the coffee. There's more things that are factors in healing than we have the imagination to encapsulate. The longest list I make, every time I come back and look at it, I see something I missed. And even when I look at it 10 times and I can't find anything that I've missed, nope, covered all the bases. Then I go away from it for a little bit, I have an experience of life, and I come back and I add 3 more things to the list. What does it take to get through this life in the best possible way, with optimum satisfaction of life and expression of functional life force in community with other people? It is complex. And it takes time to sort that out. So any therapist that says they can solve your back pain, your headaches, your mental issues in an hour is a liar, or they are delusional. They're either a liar, they have an agenda, or they're delusional, or all the above, because you can't. I can't get to know you in an hour. Cannot. And most therapy sessions are not an hour. So we say minimum 9 to 12 hours. And if I could say that I would do twice that or 3 times that with an average client of my own, that would not be an exaggeration. I've done this therapeutic day program on the 7-day schedule with one client 12 times in a row, back to back, with just a few days in between. And it was amazing, like walking up steps. And now we say that each program, each protocol is one expression of therapeutic intent. So the therapeutic day protocol, the 7-day, 7-session, 9 to 12 hours, hands-on chirothesia program is just one day, one step. And they might need 100. They might need 100. They might certainly need more than one. And I make no guarantees I'm going to cure everything in your life in one day, because I'm not Jesus. I'm not the Buddha. I'm like them. I'm like them. I know that. But I'm not them. So I have no pretense to just fix everything with a snap of my fingers. I have to work for it, okay? But I'll walk that journey with you, okay? I will walk with you. I will counsel you. I will take whatever time it takes to get to know you. And if it takes literally the rest of your life and the rest of my life to work it all out, guess what? I have nothing else to do. I have nothing better to do. So I'm not really concerned with turnover. I'm not really concerned with instant gratification. And I'm also not attached to solving all problems right now in this minute, because I know they're going to take time. And so since I know that, let's go ahead and create a structure that allows for it. And we're going to have to talk, and we're going to have to tap, and we're going to have to talk about your nutrition, and we're going to have to talk about your family, and we're going to have to talk about where is the power service on your apartment relative to your head when you're sleeping. Do you face north or south? Are you a north sleeper, a south sleeper, an east sleeper, a west sleeper? Do you have darkness when you sleep? Do you know, not just what are you eating today, what were you eating 10 years ago? Nobody wants to talk about that. I don't care what you had for lunch today. I care about what you had for lunch 10 years ago today. Because it'll be more telling on why you feel the way you do today than you telling me what you ate today. I want to talk about your old unresolved negative emotional issues of trauma and abuse physically, mentally, and spiritually that nobody, not even your priest, wants to talk to you about. Why? Because I want to be your priest in that regard. And I'm available to do that. Because I know that you've got to tell somebody. Everybody does. All of us, we call it God's humility clause. All of us have a scratch that we can't itch. Or an itch that we can't scratch, however you want to say it. That's God's humility clause. That's why we can never do it ourselves completely. This idea of self-realization is utterly and completely dependent on other people. And read Autobiography of a Yogi. Read what these famous swamis actually wrote about their path. And you know what you read? List of names. List of names. Who helped them when? Who taught them what? Who was their role model for this and their role model for that? They did not, none of them, not a one of them, do it on their own. Not a one of them. Osho used to say, and you know, he's a controversial figure, but he used to say that one of his greatest mentors in life as a yogi was Sifu Bruce Lee. Okay? I didn't study with Sifu Bruce Lee, but I studied with Danny Inosanto, Larry Hartzell, Tim Tackett, Richard Bustillo and Alfonso Tamez, who did study with Bruce Lee. And I was in the first generation of the second generation of Lee Jun Fan Jeet Kune Do instructor candidates who were certified as official card-carrying Bruce Lee style fighting method instructors, qualified to open a school. 1981, with 11 other people. Danny Innocento is still alive and still teaching today. And Danny is the one who taught me this, which Osho quotes. He said Bruce Lee was one of the most inspirational gurus that he ever studied with. And this is one reason why. Because Bruce Lee taught Osho the way to mastery is based on 4 principles. Number 1, research your own experience. Because this is not your first rodeo, and it's not your first incarnation, and you come into this life, no matter what anybody says or believes about you, with certain fundamental understandings and skills that are unique to you and your life, that are important. That's why you kept them. It's why you held on to them. It's why no matter what goes on in your life, there's some fundamental things that you know that maybe not many other people know. Research your own experience and discover these things about yourself. Research your past life, which is another euphemism because there's not one, there's many. Research your past lives, even in this life. Your past consciousnesses, the past identities that you've been in this life. Research them and find something that didn't change. Research your own experience. Absorb what's useful. Put yourself next to real truth and real teaching and in front of real teachers. No BS, no posers, but people who are actually what they say they are and can prove it. Reject what's useless. Abandon in vain discussion. Abandoning ways of being and ways of living, even geographies, locations, people, houses, jobs, philosophies, religions, churches, abandon, not just abandon, that's almost like walk away. Reject means you intentionally disassociate these things from you. Give up your addictions. Stop smoking. Stop being an addictive person, addictive personality. Make the decision to reject that which is useless, and then, like a samurai cutting off his top knot, cut it away from you as if it is completely separate and no longer a part of you. And then the last step being, express yourself. Because all of that in a bag of chips means nothing if the end result of it is not a perfect expression of who you are. Research your own experience. Absorb what's useful. Reject what's useless. Add something specifically and uniquely your own. Make it personal. Find a way to take that which you feel is most valuable that you've acquired through this process and unique it. And personalize it. Now, it doesn't mean steal it. See, you can give credit where credit is due. That's called universal and spiritual copyright. Copyright's a real thing. There's a reason why you give credit to where you get things from, because when you do so, you instantly have permission to use it without limitation or restriction. And the universe karmically is not going to come back at some future point in time and kick you in the ass and smack your hand and take it away from you because you stole it at some point in the past. Add something specifically your own, which means you at one point here have to express yourself. Have to. And then guess what? It's a formula. It's an algorithm. It is magic. Because the second you do the last thing in this process, something comes into being that didn't exist in the world a minute before. And you're part of that story. And that is your power. And you have an inalienable source of power that can't be taken away from you, even if your breath is taken away from you. Wow. So Danny Inosanto taught me that. Bruce Lee taught it to him verboten. Bruce Lee taught it to everybody. He had it written on the wall of his school where he used to teach. First thing, you walk in through the door on the Culver City Lee Jun Fan Institute on Washington and Sepulveda Boulevard in Santa Monica, and you walk in the front door, and there in hand-lettered posters on the wall, on the back wall, was research your own experience, absorb what's useful, reject what's useless, add something specifically your own. The truth is not in forms, and several other. Bruce Lee was a poster maker. He liked to make posters. And he had posters all over his school with what in his culture were called koans, or sage-like sayings of wisdom, statements of wisdom, okay? Because he wanted you, no matter when you were practicing fighting and doing whatever you were doing in the school, that no matter what direction you turned in, you saw something inspirational. While you're trying to punch your friend in the head, you'd see something inspirational. While you were trying to stab this guy, you'd see something inspirational. I mean, it's Bruce Lee. Okay. So Therapeutic Day Protocol is actually what we do. You're not doing SomaVeda if you're not doing the protocol. If you're just doing individual knockoff, repetitive sessions, that's good. People will love you. You'll be able to make a living doing that. They won't complain. They'll be perfectly happy, and you will never, ever see the potential. And nor will they ever, ever receive it, because you're not doing the traditional work until you're what? Doing it a traditional way. And this is, what I'm describing, is at heart, is a traditional way. And it's more about cultivation of being than it is about fixing things. And that's why it's lasted for 1,000 years, in my opinion.